Does it have a release date?
I don't know, but I mean, it's fucking stupid. I was looking forward to these because I thought they were going to be the definitive versions of these games. I thought it's like, okay, I'm going to get these. I don't have to go back and play any other version because they're going to look the best, which isn't even the case in that battle scene. And that they were going to have everything the previous versions had. But not only do they not look the best because the battle scenes are stupid, they don't even have everything. They're just going to be like remasters of the very first version of the game.
Are they going to fix the bugs at least?
I hope. That's actually one of the biggest changes in every single remaster is they do iterative bug fixes. But
coming July 28th.
July 28th. Okay, we'll get back into that in a minute. Welcome to the Vomitorium. As always, I am your host, The Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing just peachy. Because I got some cool things in the mail. Look at this. Look at this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I finally got my limited run copies of No More Heroes and No More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle, which I've been waiting a while for. I still haven't gotten Scott Pilgrim, even though I ordered that well over a month before these. One of the problems with that is they're having some problem with printing of the soundtrack that came with the bundle, and something about paying royalties. And like, well, yeah, it's music. You have to pay royalties on it. Why did you guys not think about this ahead of time? Yeah. But it also came as limited run games too, with these neat little trading cards. So here's the limited run game trading card for the first No More Heroes, and there's Travis and what's her name, Sylvia, and there's the one for Desperate Struggle.
Cool. Well, it says he got his headlight bar.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, I didn't know you were waiting for it.
But it's good that you have it. Yeah. So yeah. It turns out Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster is what we were talking about before. Yeah. We were just bitching about how something that looked like it might be good is looking to have the same old Square shenanigans that we've come to know the company for.
Yeah. Fun.
Yeah.
But it is coming out July 28th, according to Steam.
Yeah. To reestablish, for those who have or haven't been following, Square back at E3 announced that they were going to be doing a 6-set remaster of the first 6 Final Fantasies in pixel form. They're supposed to capture the image of the original Final Fantasy series because everybody was bitching about how ugly Final Fantasy 5 and 6 looked for their mobile version. Specifically 6 more than 5. Like, they went the same style, but then they went overboard on it. And then the menus were ugly too. So they're like, okay, we're going to make it look like the old Final Fantasies. We're going to make you happy. We thought these were going to be the definitive versions of these games. Today, more information came out because they're available for pre-purchase, and they started dropping a lot of like screenshots and stuff like that. And the very first thing that they said is that they're no longer going to be selling the mobile remakes of Final Fantasy 5 and 6 that everybody finds to be atrocious. Like, sometimes I want to vomit looking at that art. Sometimes I do just thinking about it. But they dropped the screenshots, and these only look marginally better because at least one thing that those remakes didn't do is waste so much goddamn space. Like, I'm going to put an image on the screen for those watching live. They can see what we're talking about. Let me find my thing.
The sprites are absolutely tiny.
Yeah, they look great, but...
Well, can I show you? But they don't look great. They're too small.
No, I mean, as far as sprites, the sprites look great. It's the layout, the way everything's arranged and stuff. That's the real problem here. But yeah, you can...
Yeah. Yeah, let me show you my thing first because it's real quick. So, let's see. So yeah, this is a game designer who I follow on Twitter, and he was showing the problem. He was illustrating the problem with the remastered Final Fantasy VI. So this is the original. This is what the original looked like, 4x3. This is the new one in Japanese. And you'll notice there's all this space here, there's all this space here.
Yeah.
The sprites aren't filling up the screen. And then he pointed out, so this is sort of pointing out where the sprites are on the screen. Where the yeah, so the darker areas are the negative space. So there's all this negative space here. And then he photoshopped it to how it should look. And he filled up the whole bottom, made these a lot bigger. And I mean, it fills up the screen.
Yeah, and to explain the problem,
and he's
they probably thought it was too crowded when they tried it, because I guarantee you Square did try upscaling the sprites differently, right? They're just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But the upscale that they're doing now that leaves all this empty space is, because I've zoomed in and looked at it with the eye, it's a 2 times upscale. What that means is that for every single pixel, it will now be taking up a 2x2 space, or every pixel is now 4 pixels total, right? And when they do that on a 1080 screen, which is, 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels tall, that leaves a lot of empty space, compressing things to like the same distance from each other on the map. If they were to do a 3 times upscale, which is just making the sprites 3x3, or each one takes up 9 squares, then it actually fills up the map a lot better.
Maybe too much? Is that what the problem is?
Well, they might have thought it was too crowded, because if you go back to that last one again, there are 3 characters on the screen. Now, they are in Magic Tech armor. There is technically enough room for another character there. Though it would be going into that box if they want to leave it there, or they could have moved everybody up a space into the background. So I get why they might have thought it was too crowded, but that screen just looks way better.
Look, they're all still scrunched together.
Yeah, they're just
there's
together,
room for That's all the guy did, was he just grabbed this stuff and.
But this is an odd situation since it's 3 people in the Magic Tech armor. I can actually show you the screen the same way when I pull up the Final Fantasy 1 screenshot that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Which you'll have to just... You usually have the Twitch up anyway. You'll just have to wait for the delay, because I'm going to just fill in the space with it. Properties, window capture. Yes, that is the right window, but not the right tab. Here we go. So now it should be on screen. You can wait your second. And here's a screenshot of the original Final Fantasies thing. This has 4 people in it. Much like in the Dawn of Souls remake, none of them overlap each other, so it actually doesn't feel that scrunch. It fits the screen a little bit better, but it still just feels like there's a bunch of wasted empty space here, right? The menu doesn't go all the way across. There's this huge gap between the characters, which is a problem, because even if you had like 9 imps on the screen, or any of those spawns that could fill up the whole thing, there would still be a large gap.
Like, why don't they center that menu? It just looks weird.
I don't know. But
why is it all way over to the right?
Right? My other problem, as I was talking to you about, which I'm going to zoom in for this, you see there's an issue here with the sprite of the black belt and the thief. I appreciate that they tried to actually make the sprites look like the original ones, but better. Unlike Dawn of Souls, which just like completely redid all the sprites, changed the color palettes and stuff like that. But the thief and the black belt, their skin palette was the same yellow as the black mage's hat, which we all assumed, and his shoes, that yellow wasn't supposed to be like gold or anything. It did end up being that later, but we thought it was like, oh, maybe it's like a brownish straw, like a wizard hat, right? And his shoes were also yellow. They were probably like brown, like leather shoes. So we seemed like, okay, then maybe their skin was supposed to be tan or something. The thief did look like an elf. He did have like bigger ears than everybody else. But they had yellow skin and everybody else had like the default peach skin. So you thought they were supposed to be darker. It's not a huge deal, but it just looks weird to the eye, being that you knew they were a different color than everybody else.
Yeah, it's almost like they whitewashed them. Oh my god.
Yeah.
They were supposed to be brown people. Oh my god. What have they done?
And it's like, I don't know, I'm just used to them being darker. It's weird.
You know, and here, like, okay, I'm looking at the picture of Final Fantasy 2, and the head guy, they gave him dark skin.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't do it to those guys.
It's not like they couldn't. I mean, obviously, in today's world, they could do any color they want.
Yeah,
even
Leon, they're trying to make a match. Like, look at the blue on the thief's hair and the black belt's like clothes are the exact same blue, like it would have been with the original. I mean, the black mage had the same blue as their clothes and hair, which is why
I know it looks like they swapped the hair and the clothes between those two.
Well, it did originally too, right? So we knew what the darker brown was supposed to look like because the thief already had darker brown, like leather tunic, and the black belt had darker brown hair, right? Yeah. Which is another reason why you might be able to assume that maybe the fighter was supposed to be a redhead. Because brown was a palette. But the real reason was every character was limited to 3 colors. There was black would get washed out, and you knew that black was the washout color because they just left the background black for the most part. And if you were to bring those sprites into the menu, like the black mage would almost like disappear into the menu. And so, but every character could only be the washout color and then like 3 other colors or whatever, right? Like they had a very limited palette. So you understand the limitations. I'm not complaining too much, but it's still just weird looking.
But like, would anyone have complained if they had updated it a little bit, just the palette?
I don't think so. I think people just cared that things were remotely close. Because one of the complaints about Dawn of Souls, like you look at the thief, and he actually just looks like the thief design from Final Fantasy 3. Not from the original, right? He's got like the green bandana, the green shirt, brown hair. It's like, that doesn't look like the same character. Why did you pull that in there?
Wait, the thief in this picture that you're showing?
No, in Dawn of Souls. That was why people were complaining. It's like they want to make it look more like the original.
Yeah. Well,
the fighter had like this wild blonde hair. He ended up looking more like Cloud in Dawn of Souls.
Yeah.
I did have another image. This is we went red. Yeah, that's okay. It was a blip. Here's them going up to the Temple of Fiends or the Chaos Shrine, whatever you want to call it, depending on the version, confronting Garland. So the overworld, like I was saying, the overworld looks great. I have no complaints on the overworld whatsoever.
Yeah. Chaos.
I must destroy chaos. I have to
destroy chaos.
It's not a dream or a hope, but like a hunger.
We're complaining because that's our job to complain.
Yeah.
Why are you asking?
But
what we do here.
Plus, some of these things are worth complaining about because the whole reason they're doing these remasters is because people were bitching. And they don't even fix half the things people were bitching about. It's like, well, why would you do it then? Why are you charging this much for it? This whole bundle right now, it's 22% off for you to pre-purchase it. And that costs $75. Imagine how much you're paying for the whole bundle when it's not 22% off.
$96 apparently, because I'm looking at it on Steam.
Well, thinking too, the bundle's probably 22% off because it's a bundle. You're probably just saving money on buying a bundle. But I mean, imagine like maybe 92 if you're not buying them all at once. If over time you're
96.
Yeah, 96. Yeah.
Yeah, they made Final Fantasy 1 and 2 $12 each. Frankly, is a ripoff.
Yeah.
At this point, and then the others are 18. Why didn't they make them all $5?
I don't know.
I mean, if they're gonna do a piss poor job,
why not just sell the whole remaster, the bundle? Like, I wouldn't mind paying $60 for the bundle, like a normal game price, if I was getting all 6 of them at once. But also, if they were the definitive versions of these fucking games.
Yeah.
Because the other thing we're complaining about, which is what I was complaining about as we rolled in, they don't even have all the bonus shit from the other remasters of the game. There's like, no, and the exact quote, and I read it to you before, was, these games are newly developed remasters based on the original titles. Some of the changes and additional elements found in other remakes of these games are not included.
Yeah, so no Dawn of Souls.
Yeah, like
no extra dungeons.
Yeah, none of the extra dungeons where you fight like the fiends of the other games in number 1. The Lunar Ruins, like the extra temple in 4 won't be there. Kaiser Dragon won't be in 5. Shinryu won't be in 6. And what was the Gilgamesh reappearances in each of the beginning games from the remasters won't be in there. You'll only see him in 5.
Yeah. And they still did a piss poor job of the graphics.
Mm-hmm. So at the moment, now it is digital. They could fix any of this shit at any time.
Yeah. Okay. But
So
here's the
at
other
the
thing.
moment,
My question.
I'm going to say not recommended.
Yeah. Here's the other thing. It says partial controller support. What does that mean?
Oh, that means you're going to need an NES controller if you want to play one controller. If you want to play 4, 5, and 6. I'm kidding. That would be hilarious, though. That was the case.
Yeah. Are we ready again?
No, we're fine. I'm green.
Oh, okay.
No, then I just blinked red.
Sure.
I'm having a lot. My kilobytes are fine.
Okay, I'll just leave it alone then. Yeah, that would be interesting. You have to figure out a way to plug in an NES controller into your computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what partial controller support means. I have no idea.
Probably just doesn't support every controller. That's probably the case. Like, being the fact that it's on a computer, you could probably plug an Xbox controller in, no problem. I mean, almost everything on a Windows PC does Xbox. I don't know if this is for Apple and Linux as well, and what controller support will mean for those other devices.
Yeah. So yeah, I frankly, since I've just recently played all of these games, and hopefully we'll be done with Final Fantasy VI by then, I don't plan on buying them. At least not right away.
I'm gonna pick them up maybe 2 or 3 years from now during another like summer or winter sale when they're like 60% off.
Yeah, I'll put it in my wish list and wait.
And knowing Square, they'll probably have already had a price drop too, because Square actually does drop their prices a lot, mostly because it's hard for them to keep moving product with how much they put out and the complaints people get. So by then, it might already be worth like $5 to $10, and then with a sale, I might be spending like $250 on each of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Nice.
But Square, stop fucking up.
But yeah. They just half-assed it. It's like, why couldn't they put in the extra content?
Yeah, and the font is fucking ugly.
I don't know how they did it. I don't know if they. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they took the original and. I don't know.
I feel like
I don't know how they do these remasters. Like,
me and
do
four
they
other
start
people,
with a certain code base, or do they?
I don't know, like, but I feel like me and four other people in half the time could have made a better remaster if we had all the just, you know, the base files from the original stuff.
Yeah, all the assets and everything. Just they clearly put like the minimum possible effort, and then they sold. They're selling it for $18. That's insane.
One of the problems with the font too is like how tiny it is. With all that space they have, why are the letters so fucking tiny?
I don't know. Yeah, the fonts are so scrunched together.
The NES version of Final Fantasy 1 looks better than this.
Awful. Well, anyway. I don't know what to say.
Well, we do have other things to talk about. There are other things going on in the world than just Square fucking up Final Fantasy again.
Elric says he blames Square Enix because they had a partnership with Disney and Marvel. Yeah.
No,
because that's where they're putting all their money.
They've been fucking up long before that. But GTA 6.
Anyway.
Do you know when it's reportedly actually going to be out? When it finally will come out?
Same day as Skyrim or Elder Scrolls 6.
2025.
So yeah, probably the same as Elder Scrolls.
So like what were we, 21? 4 fucking years from now. Yeah, and it will include a Fortnite-like evolving map, which basically means they're just going to keep patching and updating the map with events, which I think is stupid. Unless for online, that's fine if they're the online mode. If there's a single player story mode, the map can evolve as you progress the story, but I don't want people coming in and patching the map while I'm trying to play the story, unless there is no story mode. If GTA 6 is entirely basically like a online type experience, I guess it's fine, but that's also kind of weird if that's the case.
GTA 5 came out in 2012, right? I think.
Maybe yes.
I feel like
I think people have been waiting since 2013, and normally you're not waiting for the next game until you've had plenty of time to play it. So I want to say 2012.
Yeah. Well, you know what the problem is? People keep buying freaking GTA 5.
Yeah,
it's like one of the it's one of the top selling games every year.
Yeah.
Like who doesn't already own it?
Well,
apparently
it's like,
a lot of people,
talking about the Elder Scrolls as a kind of congruent example, right? Frickin' Howard said, "We'll stop selling it when you stop buying it." Right? They just keep making ports because people keep buying them. If they stop buying it, they'll stop making the ports and they'll actually get the other games done by now.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can't blame them.
Yeah.
But you can't blame the company for saying like...
It's a consumer's fault.
Exactly. And you can't really blame the consumers for liking a decent game. I mean,
well, I can.
Hate on Skyrim all you like, but it's...
I can hate on the consumers. If there's anyone to hate on, it's them. Right? It's like with the Final Fantasy stuff, right? Maybe they'll actually make a better fucking game, or they'll fix these games if we tell people not to buy them. Like right now, I'm telling you, don't get these games. It's a waste of your money. They didn't put the effort into it. Right?
Yeah.
If you already own fucking Skyrim on the PS3, don't get it for the PS4 and then the PS5 and then the Switch and then, you know, like, just get it once.
Yeah. No, I understand. That's right.
Yeah.
But from what I understand, I've never actually played it, but GTA 5 is pretty good, I guess.
The
But
story's kind of disappointing. The online
do
is
they
where it
keep
was good. Like,
releasing it? Do they keep releasing it on different platforms?
I think so. Yeah, because it was on PS3 originally, and you could get it on PS4. The PS3
Can you
was the
get it on
better
PS5?
version because you probably can. I haven't looked yet, but the PS3 version was the best version because PS3 you didn't have to pay for online play.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I used to play the online all the time back on the PS3. Which is why I've been super hesitant to ever get it again on Steam because I did originally play it and I don't need to play it again, but it's the online. That's why everybody keeps getting it because they just want to play the online with their friends. Like, but you already own it. So, yeah, but my friends own it over here. It's like, well, then you should have got it for that console in the first place.
Yeah, see, but Elric, so if it comes out for like PS5 or Xbox Series X, is that what it's called now? I'm sure it'll come out for the console after that as well.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a gamble because, like, I mean, think about like Diablo 3, right? That was pretty much a bust. I don't know how well it sold. I imagine not very well. But like, yeah, what if they spend 5 years or 10 years, however long it's taking, to make this game and it's a flop?
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you're also looking apples and oranges here, right? GTA is not comparable to literally any other game, except maybe like Madden or something. Like, gamers do play GTA, so it's not even that comparable to sports games. But GTA is a game that people who don't otherwise play video games will buy a console just to play GTA, and they'll get every single new one. I have cousins. I have cousins who are gamers and cousins who really don't play games. And the ones who don't play games literally owned an Xbox to play Grand Theft Auto.
yeah.
And we would make fun of them too. It's like, why do you own an Xbox if all you play is Grand Theft Auto? It's like, well, I really like Grand Theft Auto. It's like, oh, I mean, I guess if you think it's worth the purchase, but I think that's kind of dumb. Now you can use it as like a streaming device too, so it's actually less dumb to get a console for a single game because, like, oh well, it's also like my DVD player. I can watch Netflix and do all that stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. So you think it's a guaranteed seller? I mean, I guess. I mean,
It's Grand Theft Auto.
I guess they'll make it back. It's just how many millions of dollars are they going to spend over 5 years? It's just, I don't know. I guess they'll make it back.
I don't think they've spent that much money over 5 years, right? Because I don't think they've been spending that much time actually developing it. I think they've been doing things that will lead to its development because there's a lot of crossover, but they've also been updating and supporting GTA 5 that entire time. And probably a lot of that update and support for GTA 5 will aid in GTA 6. I mean, they're going to be using the same base framework and stuff like that. But a lot of the money spent was money they were also getting back from people spending money in-game in GTA Online, right? Because you could actually spend money for the in-game money and stuff like that.
Yeah. Now that
I actually don't
runs
think this was
on
a huge cost for them.
Yeah. Now that runs on Rage, the Rockstar Advanced Game Engine.
Yes.
Are they spending their time updating their game engine?
Yeah, they see. You always see people complaining about Bethesda and the Creation Engine. They've been using Rage for a long time over at Rockstar. Nobody complains about that, and they've just been doing iterative improvements to the Rage machine over and over again.
Yeah.
Now, part of it too is Rockstar's a lot better at improving their engine than Bethesda is.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Speaking of, that's something we were going to talk about yesterday, was the Creation Engine. And we never got around to it because I was just talking about the Newground Summer. Howard came out and explained why it's taking so long for Elder Scrolls 6 to come out. And honestly, this is the most rational excuse he's given yet. A lot of the reasons he's given have been just complete bullshit, and they're Todd Howard, and you can tell, right?
Yeah.
He's been giving these BS excuses for years. This one actually makes sense, too. I'm like, did you give us a real reason for once? Because if not, you got a lot better at lying. They are no longer working with the original creation engine. Whatever like iterative updates they've been doing over the years, they have finally hit the point where they are getting into Creation Engine 2, where they cut off the end and they are starting, same structural system and stuff, but they were starting fresh with the next version of their engine. And Starfield is the first game that's going to be using it. And once they get all the kind of like startup first time we're using this version of the engine kinks out of Starfield, that will influence how they do Elder Scrolls 6. And personally, like, the thing I've been complaining on this cast many times, what they need to do is they needed to bring in other people who are good at like fixing engines and stuff like that to go and look at the creation engine. And it does look, from what he said, that they have a team dedicated to doing that. That is not the same people who have been working on it this entire time.
Yeah, well, I think he said something about like last year they hired hundreds of people to work just on the engine.
Yeah.
I think he said something ridiculous, like literally hundreds of people. I don't remember how many hundreds it was, but it sounded like, wow, they're just like putting a lot of effort into this. So
yeah, and it might be good, because that's the thing I've been complaining about, is that they just need to put the right people into fixing this thing, because then it's, an engine, any tool is only as good as the people using it. But some tools are better than other tools, and part of the problem with the creation engine is that, more so than many others, it is prone to what we call spaghetti code, where you put one line of code here kind of sloppily, and you have no idea that it's going to interact with other stuff over here, and they overlap like noodles of spaghetti. And you get like these really weird interactions that you didn't predict, and they don't have anywhere near enough time for bug testing to figure out all of these different weird things. And all of a sudden a DLC comes out that interacts with something in the base code that you didn't understand, and now if you go in water, there's a 1 in 10 chance that your game file is going to become corrupted. That's literally something that happened in Skyrim.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. A lot of these game engines, as much as we say, well, it's not the same as it was when it first came out, it's still, as you iterate, basically, when you start over, you get a chance to do things like that, like separation of concerns, and you can separate it out so that you can, have DLC can be a separate module that doesn't break the underlying game. And mods can be a separate module that doesn't break things.
Yeah, so this is also why like Unreal would periodically come out with a new version of the engine, instead of it's just like we would have Unreal Engine since the first one all the way up to now. Right? Yeah. Because they like to start fresh. You can still look at the same framework, but you can attack it in new directions. And a good example here is like your entertainment center. When you first get your entertainment center and you put your TV, and I know way back in the day would have been your VCR at first, right? That would have been the first thing you ever plugged into it. Everything's nice and neat. There's very few cables. Your TV plugs into the wall, VCR into the TV, cable into the VCR, boom. But then you start adding more shit to it over time. Your NES gets plugged into the VCR. That's one more set of cables that also needs to be plugged into the wall, just like the VCR. So now you have to get like a power strip because you only had 2 plugs back there. And then over the years, you're taking things out. I don't need this. Yeah, I don't need the VCR anymore. Let me put the DVD player here. But now I've got like 3 different consoles that I still want to play. And suddenly there's like 20
surround sound speakers.
Yeah, and there's just this fire hazard of a mess of cables back there. That's the creation engine. Starting over is like plugging everything out of the wall, only keeping the new stuff, getting rid of all the old stuff that we didn't even realize some of these cables were still back there when we unplugged some of the old units. And just pulling everything out and freshly, neatly wiring them in, using twist ties to make sure none of the cables cross over each other and stuff. That's what it's like just making a new engine. We still have a lot of the same stuff in there. but it's not a mess anymore.
Yeah. Replace all the RCA cables with one HDMI.
Yeah.
Get wireless speakers, you know.
I think that's the way most people could understand it. It's like, because a lot of people can't just look at like the numbers and letters and variables and be like, I don't understand how this is any better than what it was before. They both just look like a series of numbers and letters and stuff. So well, think of it like cable management. Cable management's probably a really easy way for people to picture it.
Yeah. Definitely. And then, you know, 10 years down the road, it'll be a rat's nest again.
Yeah. Then what I'm really hoping is now that they have Microsoft money backing them, what's even more important than them making their engine better, because again, a tool is only as good as the people working on it. And as far as I know, the Elder Scrolls team that will be working on 6 is the same that worked on 5. And I have a lot of issues with 5. Is maybe they can actually have a substantial bug testing period because they have Microsoft money, and Microsoft does have a higher standard of quality because they bug tested the shit out of the Master Chief Collection. That thing runs smooth as fuck, right? And because of Microsoft's quality standard, maybe they're like, hey, bug test your fucking game.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. If that's the case, I'm like, okay, I'll probably get back into Elder Scrolls. Because like they've been taking away the features I like over time and making it more of like just a normie casual game that's less fun. It's not the end of the world. I can still enjoy a game like that. But I'm not going to enjoy it if it's also a broken mess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know there's still bugs in it, but I didn't get into it, I think, until it was relatively stable. Yeah, and like you've said, Nintendo wouldn't have accepted it with, you know, humongous bugs. So the Skyrim I've always played has been fairly stable. So.
Yeah. I think it's kind of funny that outside of very, very select AAA companies, like Nintendo being one of them, I think Capcom actually does have a pretty extensive bug testing period, but there's very few that do. Indie developers are far more likely to like test the shit out of their game before releasing it than many of these AAA companies are.
And weirdly, indie game developers tend to fix bugs really fast.
Yeah. Well, like, because it's their reputation that's on the line. And unlike these big companies, that matters because this is like the only thing they're getting money from. They're not like widely out in a bunch of different baskets.
Yeah. Whenever Stardew Valley comes out with a really big update with a whole bunch of new features, there's a bug fix release within a week. And maybe 2 or 3 of them within the next 2 weeks. Yeah. And I mean, he just because I mean, you know, it's a very small team. He kind of needs people to sort of bug test for him. But man, he fixes them fast. I've been amazed every time there's a major release. There's minor releases just come out so fast. And also like Clay, whenever they come out with new stuff for Don't Starve or Oxygen Not Included. They come out with bug fix releases really fast.
Skyrim 76. So. Yes. That's basically the whole thing. But it's nice to know that Fallout 76 is the last game on the original creation engine. Whatever update it was.
Yeah.
And I think looking at that too, and part of it too is also knowing that it's kind of like what's it called? Like a gesture of faith or whatever, right? A gesture of goodwill to the audience. Because a lot of people, they don't understand how updating something works, right? Like, you can even just look at League of Legends as an example. If you played as long as I have, you can see that even though it's running on the same framework as the original, they've never completely scrapped the game and started over. The game doesn't even resemble the original version of the game at all. Right? And that would be an example of an engine, because they did basically build it from the ground up, that has been updated over time to look like something completely different. If you follow a game like that, it's really easy to understand it, but if you don't, people are just like, well, they're still using the same thing that they built Fallout 3 on. Or the same thing they built Morrowind on. It's like, no, well, I mean, they are, but they really aren't. But, you know, this is a good gesture of goodwill, where it's like, well, look, we're using something new now. And for a lot of people, that will make a difference from their opinion. Like, their perspective will be completely different just seeing something like that.
Yeah. True.
GTA 6 is coming in 2025. 4-year countdown hype. Let's fucking go. Yeah, we were just talking about that. You know, I'm excited to play it, though. I like GTA.
Did Evil say that?
No, Flip did.
Yeah, we just said that, yeah.
Yeah, like, I like GTA. I enjoy the series, you know?
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it for a long time. My favorite is Vice City. I kind of like some of the spin-off games more than the main series, but I do enjoy them. Like, I'll probably play it when it comes out, or maybe sometime after. I might wait till it goes on sale or something, but I will eventually play it.
And for people just joining us, the Final Fantasy 1 through 6 Pixel Remaster is coming out July 28th, and it looks like it sucks.
Yeah, just don't get it, you know?
In case you missed that. Highly recommend waiting on that one and see if they fix the problem.
Yeah. But that's a good thing about digital things. If, like, enough people don't get it, maybe they'll just be like, we should do something about this.
Yeah, it would be nice. I have noticed. I like nothing. I don't know if there's been anything like major done, but I've noticed they have released bug fixes for older, Final Fantasies, like on Steam.
Oh yeah, they do that,
and iOS, stuff like that. So they're not going to just put it up and just ignore it. So I don't know if they're going to fix the graphical. They may not see it as a problem.
I mean, they might though. Think about it this way.
Maybe.
The reason they're doing the Pixel remake is because everybody was bitching at the way that 5 and 6 looked. They even brought that to the attention because they're no longer selling 5 and 6, the ugly versions, only the new ones. Which I will say are arguably less ugly, the new ones. They have all that space, but the pixel art looks better. Right.
The new ones.
Yeah, the new
ones that aren't out yet.
Yeah, they are arguably less ugly.
They're not selling those?
Which ones?
I guess that's a good thing I bought them.
Yeah, the old
5
versions.
and 6 on
they're not selling those mobile versions anymore. They're still available right now, but within like a month, they're taking them down.
Well, I already got them. I bought them. Interesting.
Yeah, and that's about all I had to talk about today.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the comic book industry?
I don't know what's going on, but there's pretty much always something going on. So what do you got?
Oh, yeah. Exciting stuff. The ICV2 Comic-Con 2020 comic sales report came out.
Was it shit?
Interesting. Well, there's good news and bad news. The good news is comic book industry is doing great. 6% increase in 2020 during a pandemic.
Oh, okay.
The bad news is
it all indie?
The bad news is it is all manga.
Oh, well, yeah, okay. Oh, manga actually is the one industry I think wasn't going to be hit by COVID, because a lot of mangaka do their work from home, and then like after they're done with whatever their main thing is, like a lot of them just end up doing the main characters' action shots and stuff, and then they'll send it to assistants to fill out backgrounds and everything. So after they're done, they'll send it to the assistant, which will then send it to their editor, and like you could do all of that from home. It's one of the few industries, especially because they mail. They just have people carry it. It's physical stuff. Most mangaka don't work digitally. Some are. I mean, over the last few years, some have been making the transition to digital work, but most of them still work traditionally. Having bad internet infrastructure did not hurt the manga industry whatsoever.
So Elric does make a good point. That's not bad news. But check this out. I'm talking the mainstream American comic book industry. In other words, mainstream American comic books produced by American companies. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Sales dropped 20% in 2020 from 2019.
Now that doesn't surprise me at all.
Not too much of a surprise considering COVID, and maybe it'll bounce back a little this year.
Yeah.
But 20%. And what's amazing is that despite that 20% drop, the industry still grew because of manga. So,
well, that depends on how you define the industry, right? Because I don't think manga and American comics are the same industry. They're the same medium. People try, like, they are sequential art in like novelized form, even if it's just short bits. Yeah. But they're not the same industry.
But a lot of people have been trying to find comparisons, because here's the thing: the American comic book professionals are celebrating this report. Oh, look at that! It went up 6% during a pandemic.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So here's what I've seen is an example of, and I think Ethan Van Sciver said this, maybe just some guy. Think of it like the car industry, right? Imagine the worldwide, or at least the American car sales total went up 6%, but sales of American cars went down 20%. Everybody's suddenly buying Japanese or German cars, right?
Well, to be fair, Toyota is probably the best company at making vehicles, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if the American-made product is dropping,
yeah,
that doesn't necessarily. I mean, it's hard to say, because
here's my problem.
There's been this ongoing argument
that these cars are in the same industry because there are many purveyors of vehicles. Now, I'm not just talking about lots, but I'm talking about how vehicles get to the lots and stuff that cover things international, like different companies into it, like Toyota and all the different ones, Porsche. But the thing with manga is you don't really have like many American comic companies that are the ones importing the manga to people. Barnes & Noble will sell it, but Barnes & Noble also sells a lot of things from many different industries. It's not like back in the day where Dark Horse was translating manga, so you could kind of count those as American comic book sales because they were coming through Dark Horse. These are completely separate industries just working in the same medium.
Yeah.
Their sales
should be separated.
Right. Yeah.
But it's been humorous to see all these pros that actually work at Marvel and DC and everything celebrating, when it's like, dude, look at the report. It says that your sales have dropped 20%.
Yeah.
And I did a little calculation. Basically, in 2019, American comics, if you do group it all into the same industry, American comics had a market share of 44%.
Yeah.
And in 2020, that dropped to 33%. So American comics are now 1/3 of the total comic industry.
Yes. And Timothy's asking, are they counting indie comics or just Marvel and DC? They probably are. But the problem is we have to understand, even as successful as some indie comics have been, they are a very small slice of the total pie. That indie comics probably just remained stable over COVID, and if the rest went down, that still drags the whole American comic industry down.
Yeah, it's probably, and I think they also did include things like crowdfunded comic, as much as they could gather. But that part of the industry is so tiny, it's maybe like 1% or less.
Even the bigger crowdfunded comics might do way better than any individual mainstream American comic, or even 5 of them collectively together. But there are just so many comics, like, they've littered the shelves. That was part of their goal for the long time, that even the ones that are doing good on crowdfunding are a small slice of the pie compared to everything that's doing shit on the shelves.
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, the total industry is still tiny. 1.28 billion total revenue.
It's very
So
small
if you think about
industry.
it, all you have to do is sell $1.28 million
to be
hit 1% of the industry.
Or 1%, yeah.
1%.
Yeah, 1%.
No, wait. No, it would have to be 12 million, right?
12 million. No.
12 million
yeah, because you're
would be 1%.
Magnitude over. Yeah. 12 million would be 1%. 10% would be 120.
So I think the indie scene is less than 1%.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. For sure.
So I think it's all manga. I mean, manga had to have grown a ton because basically American comics dropped by over 100 million.
Well, and there was also the report that Demon Slayer itself was outselling the entirety of the North American comic scene. Now that's worldwide. Yeah. That's not just Demon Slayer here in the US. But the fact that there is one comic over in Japan that is outselling every North American comic just shows you the difference in the order of magnitude between the American comic book scene and what we call manga.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think indie comics could have. I don't think that makes a dent one way or the other. That could quadruple, and it wouldn't really make a difference.
Now, it's not that it's not possible to make a dent.
Yeah.
It's been growing over
maybe in a few years,
decade, but you're on a trajectory. It doesn't matter as much now. There needs to be a bigger pull into the indie comic scene.
Yeah.
But by that point, it no longer be indie comics as a scene. There would still be independent creators. So you would still call them indie comics. But at that point, it would be the mainstream scene if it ever got that big.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, so like Ethan Van Sciver's All Caps Comics, he's publishing comics from other creators. Yeah. At what point does that become a publisher and no longer indie?
Oh no, he's already a publisher. If he's actually doing the job of a publisher, if he is publishing other people's comics, if he's putting money forward to make sure that they get published, which is what a publisher does. Right?
I don't think he's doing that.
Yeah, so he's not quite a publisher yet then. Right? He's more of an agent, I think, would be the equivalent of what he's doing. But once he gets to the point that he's making so much money that he can fund comics, which is what a publisher does, and once he gets to the point that, like, he is the one putting people on book tour, right? He's got a big channel himself, so obviously he can always talk to his people. But when he starts arranging, okay, I've got you set up to be on this person's show on this day to talk about your comic, or like I've got you set up to go to this convention, at that point, he is a full-blown publisher. Nothing he does can count as indie anymore. Him personally right now, I'm still saying it may not be indie. Maybe some of the people working with him you might still, because he's more of an agent. He's already basically at the low end of the corporate level for his comics.
Yeah. I mean, he started a small business, but Alterna, though, that wouldn't be considered indie anymore.
No.
At this point,
even though they actually Alterna, God, that's actually weird because it's still also functioning more like an agency. Even though they do their own printing, so it's at it's the bare minimum of what is a publisher. Alterna's just not doing everything for them that a publisher does.
Yeah. But they do like take submissions from essentially. Yes. Well, I guess from indies.
So I would say that Alterna is a publisher, but you can still consider people who work with Alterna to be independent creators, which is kind of also how Image started. Right? Because they would do like joint ownership, but you would still basically completely own your thing and things like that. So Alterna is a publisher. And this is why I like the word agency, though, because they don't do every single thing a publisher does, but they do hit that bare minimum of they print the books, which is the most important thing. The people who work with them are definitely indie.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people get the term indie and underground confused. I agree, Flit, because you can be not independent. You can be corporatized, even if it's just a corporation can be as many as like 5 independent entities pulling together, right? Or even 2 independent entities pulling together is a corporation. You could be corporatized in a small, unknown fashion and still be underground, right? It just really depends on the structure of your system, whether you're indie or not. Underground just means nobody fucking knows about you. You're kind of just going under the radar doing your thing. I consider myself an underground creator. Like, I even use that term more than indie, right? Like, a lot of the stuff I'm making are all independent. I will do that. I will claim it totally, but I use the word underground far more often for myself than indie because I think it's a more appropriate term.
Yeah. So, Joe Quesada, Executive VP, Creative Director, Marvel Entertainment, etc., is all ecstatic about this.
Well, of course, it's his job to spin it in a positive way because he needs to sell comics.
Exactly.
He needs to make people think like, hey, look, we're popular. Don't you want to be a part of this popular thing? Buy our comics. You can be part of the community. Don't you love that word, community?
Yeah, looks like manga's where it's at.
Yeah.
Well, what else? Did you see this new... I don't know if you had something else important to talk about today, but
I told you that I was out of stuff. That's why we were moving on to anything else. We only had like...
Oh, you were out of stuff?
Yeah. There was nothing good else that I had seen.
All right. Well, did you see this new Legends of Mana anime TV series?
I did not know they were making an anime for Legends of Mana, which I need to replay that game since they just remastered it. Now that fucking Square, that's a good looking remaster from what I've seen. It basically just looks like the original game, upscaled and with backgrounds re-rendered, and it looks great. Why can't you fucking do that for Final Fantasy?
I know. It's like they're ignoring their most important franchise. Yeah. So yeah, Legend of Mana, the Teardrop Crystal is the name of a new anime series.
Nice.
Seems like they're coming out with a lot of new anime series.
I love anime.
We'll follow the most recently released Mana title. I'm trying to figure out if there is any kind of release. Okay, we don't have any release information, but at least we know it's on the way. So yeah, no, unfortunately, very, very little, except a title and the fact that it's coming.
Hey, you know what though? It's probably gonna be good. They hardly ever fuck up shit like this.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Yeah, and I don't even know. It says something about. Did I say Warner Media? Yeah, Warner Brothers is putting it out. So I don't know if that means it may not be on Netflix. It might be on HBO Max. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, I have my ways.
Yeah, well, yes. It'll be out. You'll be able to find it one way or another.
Yeah, and
Legend of Mana.
I have to do a shout out to my friend Stan Pye, who I've been shouting out quite a bit recently because, he's been doing a great job, especially putting that festival together. But there's kind of like a copy pasta going around, and he's been saying this a lot. It's become a meme. And just out of nowhere, he'll be like, on an unrelated note, did you know that the colonial Americans used to circumvent the high cost of imported British goods by doing commerce with pirates? I just thought that was neat. So,
I don't know how to say that.
Go out there and do what you have to do.
Yeah, I was telling Elric.
It's actually not bad though.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, and we've talked about this. So if something is published by Netflix, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be bad, because they do things from all different studios. So it's hard to predict you kind of got to look at the studio that's doing it.
The studio and who they have in charge of the project, like whoever the series runner is or director of the movie or whatever. And yeah, that's usually the big predictor there. Because like I said, during wave 1 and 2 of Netflix originals, they were fucking great. Like, there was almost nothing bad. I think all of it was good during the first wave. They had really high standards. And then wave 3 came, and half of it was shit. Like, they just started letting things in. And then now there's probably a lot more shit than not because they, you know, are just reaching their net wide. They're throwing it out wide. But there's still a lot of good stuff, too. You just have to look at who's making it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I need to get into that series. I haven't bought Legend of Mana, like the remake, because I have all the ones before it and I haven't gotten around to playing them. So
yeah, and the remake might go on sale by the time you get around to playing it anyway.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I've got it on my wish list, like a bunch of other things. So if it goes on sale, maybe I'll pick it up.
Yep.
Do I have it on my wish list? Yes.
I don't know. I'm probably going to add it to my wish list.
Legend of Mana. I have the other ones. Now that's the fourth one in the series, right?
Yes. It was Seiken Densetsu Final Fantasy Gaiden, or also known as Final Fantasy Adventure, was the original. Then Seiken Densetsu 2, which is Secret of Mana. Seiken Densetsu 3, which is Legend of Mana. Trials of Mana. Then Seiken Densetsu 4, which is Legend of Mana. After Legend, they stopped putting numbers next to the Seiken Densetsu, and they only just started calling it the name.
Yeah.
Which is not much after, like Children of Mana, I believe, is after Legend, and then so on and so forth.
I played Final Fantasy Adventure on the original Game Boy, and I'm pretty sure I beat it. But that was like 30 years ago, so I gotta remind myself about that.
It's also like always my reason for why don't be afraid to do weird things in spin-offs. Leave the main series alone. Just keep on upgrading the formula. Leave it formulaic, but iteratively upgrade the formula. They were doing great up to the point of 6, even to 7 to a degree.
They've done that with Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
They've
Dragon Quest
really stuck to the formula.
And then you could do a spin-off, and if the spin-off is liked well enough, it can even become its own series, because they don't have the word Final Fantasy in any of the Mana games after the first one. And what was the Adventure of Mana, I believe, which is kind of a story sequel to Final Fantasy Adventure, but it's also kind of just like a remaster of it as well. It follows the same sequence, but like the storyline events are different. And that is kind of actually the first story now. They went back and they rebooted it.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's not in the collection. That I think it was a Game Boy Advance game.
Indeed. No.
Yeah, so
PlayStation Vita.
Vita. Okay, it was Vita game. Way later. Okay, but it's basically the original game but rebooted, right? It's like well, like the Final Fantasy stuff really just doesn't fit into the Mana stuff anymore, so we need to restructure that original story. And it's good. I've played it, but they actually need to port that over to the Switch or something so people can finally play it. Maybe they will, since they did Legends, which was a PS1 game. That's the only way you could play it.
I didn't even know this existed until you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
That's cool.
If a game's good enough, it can become its own series that stands on its own, and you could just keep making games like that.
When are they going to do that with Final Fantasy Legends 1, 2, and 3?
Well, I mean, it is the Saga series, so
yeah,
they already have the collection up. You can play them, and then you could play the Romancing Saga series after that.
Yeah. They need to remake 1, 2, and 3.
They actually just rebooted, or they remastered. What was it? Saga Frontier.
And Trial, or one of the Saga ones they remastered too.
Yeah, the Saga Frontier was they just remastered that.
Oh, right.
That happens after the Romancing Saga games.
Okay.
Yeah. But, we've went over long enough. Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoy it, share it with somebody else who might enjoy the show. And if you really like it, consider giving a donation to streamlabs.com/Vomitorium Live. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye. Thanks for coming.
I'll hold your